My pilot David Viskovich doing a great job of keeping us on the right spot to see this pursuit. Going through that alley southbound now. It's kind of like we were talking about earlier, a game of cat and mouse. This vehicle just running through different alleys and intersections, just weaving its way through these residential areas, which is very dangerous at this time of night, especially people out possibly walking their dogs, enjoying the nice evening we're having, not too cold, not too hot here in the Southern California area. Okay. And you can see the suspect just kind of circling an area here. Now on about 47th Place and Wall. We've been here before as this night went on. You can see now bystanders out in the street, what looks like cheering on that suspect as we continue westbound on 47th Place. And it looks like we're finally at Wall here. That suspect looks like they're going to be making a northbound turn on Wall from 47th Place. And now what this makes you wonder, as we've circled this area multiple times, is this suspect familiar with the areas? Often what we see is when suspects circle an area, that means they're trying to find an area to possibly get out and leave the vehicle and flee on foot. However, now we're still continuing northbound San Pedro from 46th Street. And there's a chance that they might have successfully done a spike strip on at least one of the tires. We haven't gotten that confirmed yet. But now we're going to be going what looks to be trying to go eastbound on Vernon from San Pedro, wrong side of the road. Luckily, traffic is stopped and those LAPD units are right behind the suspect, still continuing eastbound Vernon through San Pedro. Only about 40 miles an hour. It's kind of the slowest we've seen it on surface streets, other than when it's stopping. But going to run this red light here. You see people on the corner, what looks like cheering on the pursuit as we go southbound on San Pedro Street versus Place, as we saw earlier, through 45th now. And back westbound on 46th Street. Continuing westbound, you see a large group on that corner there. And that's a very dangerous thing to do. A lot of people don't realize is that pursuits don't always end well, and they're cool to watch, but watch from the safety of your home through an app like KTLA or through the website rather than being out there because you never know how these things are going to end. They could end with a car crashing or possibly worse, maybe that suspect getting out and shooting. We don't know. So if you're out there on the street corner watching it from live outside, you're putting yourself in harm's way. Now the officers not only have to worry about the suspect, but they have to worry about protecting the general public that's there now too. So the best option here is if there's a pursuit in your area, lock your doors, tune in to KTLA, and watch it from the safety of your home versus outing yourself to possibly the incident. Doors open there as the officers thought this pursuit was coming to an end, but the driver speeds off now eastbound 45th Street through San Pedro Place. Going only about 20 miles an hour according to Skyview 5. And we've been circling this area right now for about 10 minutes. The vehicle's slowing down quite a bit from earlier in this pursuit. Still continuing southbound Wall Street through 49th now. See that night sun from the air unit overhead calling the pursuit for those ground units so they can focus on driving. Westbound 51st from Wall. We have 5-6 units in this pursuit, way more than the average pursuit package. A pursuit package is usually 2 units and then a supervisor, so you'll see about 3 units behind a pursuit vehicle, but now we have 7. So an interesting set of circumstances here. And now we're going northbound, it looks like. Northbound Wall. Coming up, some cross traffic still continuing northbound. And it looks like coming up on this intersection here, considering a few options, still continuing northbound through 49th Street. Coming up on 48th. Now what the officers on the ground are noticing with those spotlights in the window of that vehicle is that since this pursuit was slowed down from the 50s we were seeing earlier to about 20 miles an hour now, is that suspect is reaching around inside that vehicle. And that's a big concern to those officers in this pursuit because they don't know what that suspect's reaching for. Is that suspect reaching for a water bottle or possibly a weapon? We don't know. So they're going to take every precaution when this pursuit comes to an end to protect themselves and protect the public as well as that suspect by all means necessary, and take their time with getting that suspect out of the vehicle to make sure they're not armed and they're not going to hurt anyone. So they are thinking about that ahead of time. They have supervisors both in the pursuit as well as watch commanders back at the station working with those dispatchers to keep tabs on this pursuit, where it's at, what's happening, and assess all the options that are available to bringing it to a successful and peaceful end here in the South LA area. Those dispatchers are working hard to find out more information about what the suspects wanted for, what possible crimes they were involved in, just so those officers on the ground know and can be situationally aware from when this comes to an end. They're also working to see if they can get a hold of any possible family or people who or might know the suspect to see what the mental state of the suspect is, and kind of go from there to help bring this to a conclusion. Those communications members are doing a lot of work behind the scenes that we often don't notice because we're just so focused on the flashy lights of the pursuit on the ground. But they work very hard, just like our men and women on the ground in those police units and in the air. A little jaunt to the east there on that little side street there. Now we're on Woodlawn from 43rd Street. Still only going about 20-30 miles an hour as we continue northbound very, very slowly. Lots of traffic here. Suspect having to kind of weave around those busy streets to avoid that traffic. Still going eastbound now again. Going to come on up to a vehicle stopped on the side of the road. Going to pass on the wrong side of the road there behind that tree. And we should see him pop out here just momentarily. You see that vehicle on the other side, those brake lights having to stop for this pursuit. Still continuing eastbound through San Pedro Street on 43rd Street. LAPD in this pursuit of an assault with a deadly weapon suspect with felony evading warrants. Lots of stop traffic on this road here. You can see almost double parked car. A suspect having to weave through the street. You got a dog running across the road right there. Just missing that. Very, very busy street. You see people out on the road once again cheering on the pursuit as we approach Avalon Boulevard here on 43rd Street. Car having to slow down for those code 3 lights showing up in their window. Now southbound on Avalon from 43rd Street. It's picking up a little speed, about 30 miles an hour now. So we're going to squeeze past that vehicle there in that turn pocket here on Avalon and Vernon. Back westbound Vernon, you see that car, that police unit there, that's called Code 100. And what that officer was doing is stopping that intersection's traffic so that no one would get hurt by this vehicle possibly running a light. So they're trying to do everything that they can to protect the general public as this pursuit continues. But just look how many cars are stopped and pulling off, people getting out of their cars for this pursuit. This wasn't this way the last time we were on Vernon a few minutes ago. So this pursuit is getting a lot of attention here in this area of Los Angeles. You see back on that street corner there, a lot of people waving and cheering as this pursuit comes up to San Pedro Street here on Vernon. Those units ready to get out if this pursuit terminates, but it looks like the suspect says, nope, we're still going. Continuing westbound on Vernon through Wall, about 15 miles an hour now as we continue on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 law enforcement vehicles in this pursuit right now as we go westbound Vernon through Wall Street. And the next is going to be San Pedro Place. And continuing out to the west. Again, this is a very similar situation. We've seen the suspects circle this area a lot. Cross traffic ahead at Main Street. We'll see what happens here. Looks like we're in that left-hand turn pocket. It's hard on the brakes. Stopping for the red light. We haven't really seen that much. Doors open by that LAPD. They're going to get ready to take that position of advantage, that concealment. And the suspect's off once again. Southbound on Main Street from Vernon. LAPD back in their vehicles and continuing that pursuit southbound. Stopping once again at a red light. A little different change in tactics or attitude for that driver. Earlier when this pursuit first started, we wouldn't see him stop for anything. But however, now it seems like he's obeying the traffic laws just a little more. Unsure if that and the speed are due to driver being tired, or maybe there's something wrong with the vehicle. Maybe they did successfully do one of those spike strips, we don't know, or the suspect has worn down that vehicle from the higher speeds we saw earlier, weaving through the South Los Angeles area. But as we continue southbound, coming up on 47th Place, we've been here before. The street's filled with cars, double parked, what looks to be trying to take a look at this pursuit. And still southbound through 47th Place on Main Street. Now we're going to turn eastbound 48th Street from Main. We apologize for the long shot in those trees, but this is a controlled area of LAX, and they're going to hold us a little farther out so that those police helicopters can do their job and keep an eye on the suspect right up close, prevent any sort of issues. But still continuing eastbound 48th Street through Main, coming through Wall Street now, only going about 10 miles an hour now, speeding up to about 15 there as we continue. It almost looked like that truck that we just saw through the trees was kind of backing out into the intersection to try to block in the vehicle, but then it sped off as the car went around it. Still northbound. This might be officers are in this pursuit air unit still overhead. If you're just joining us on KTLA.com, I'm Colton Von Pertz with pilot David Viskovich in Sky 5. We are over a pursuit of an assault with a deadly weapon suspect with some felony evading warrants as well, from what we understand from the air unit overhead. This pursuit started generally in this area of LAPD, the 77th Division, and has worked its way all the way to the 110, northbound on the 10, to the east, and now we are at 45th and about Main Street. You can see pedestrians out in the street watching this pursuit right up close. Is very dangerous, but now we are southbound Main from 45th. Speed's about 20 miles an hour through that red light there. Now, we've been circling this area for about 20 minutes now. Usually when we see that, that means the suspect might be familiar with the area, might be trying to find a spot to leave the vehicle and flee on foot. Neither of those have been the case so far, and even if they were, the air unit's overhead and is going to be able to keep a good eye on that suspect as those ground officers attempt to catch up. Stopped here at 49th and Main Street, turning back northbound. You see cross traffic stopped as well. Saw those flashing lights, heard those sirens, and pulled over to the side as they should. And now we're about down to about 5 miles an hour going northbound on Main Street through 48th. Northbound through 47th. I can tell you from up here in Sky 5, it's been a little interesting for us. We've been just kind of going north-south, following this pursuit as it kind of makes its way. Yeah. The pilot and I just talking about a possible opportunity to get a better shot of the pursuit itself. However, the suspect, as soon as we try to make that move, turns back eastbound towards us, so we're going to hold off here and follow it here. Now, eastbound 45th through Wall Street, LAPD still in pursuit of this assault with a deadly weapon suspect. And it looks like we're going back southbound on San Pedro. Only about 10 miles an hour now. When we first got this pursuit, it was going about 70 with 50 mile an hour speeds on the surface streets, so quite a bit slower, which is good for the general public that's out maybe walking their dog or, getting home from work, parking their car. Luckily, they're going to be able to stay out of the way a little more. However, because of its slow speeds and it kind of circling an area, we've seen a lot of spectators come out to watch the pursuit, which is extremely dangerous for those spectators, as they could get themselves involved in something that could be extremely dangerous. See the fire department up there working a call. Glad it didn't turn there on 48th Street. Looked like the suspect vehicle finally stopping. We'll work just for a second here to get it out of from behind that tree. You can see pedestrians out in the street waving their hands, getting involved. Very dangerous situation as those officers have their guns drawn. Best option is to be as far away from something this as possible. A large crowd here at Wall and 46th Street, where this pursuit looks like it is terminating. You see officers with their guns drawn, taking a position of concealment behind those vehicle doors, trying to tell the public there to move away so that they're not in harm's way. But this pursuit looks like it possibly could be terminating here at Wall Street and 46th. Now not only do the officers have to worry about that suspect in the vehicle, but they have to worry about protecting that public. So that's going to be their main priority before they get that driver out, is to get those members of that group away from the vehicle and into safety. Driver's hand is outside the window. And this is what we want to see, is a more peaceful termination. However, there are people getting in the line of fire, and that's very dangerous. So if for some reason a firefight were to come out, now those bystanders are in harm's way. You can see them holding up their arms, getting involved with the situation. The driver's hand still out that window. The good thing here is, for the most part, the time is on the officer's side. So that suspect seemingly to give up. Now they can take this a lot slower and assess the situation, clear out the general public, and then take the suspect into custody. They have a large group of officers here. I'll pull out just for a second to show you just the large scene. It's a little hard to see behind that tree, but they brought in probably about 10 units to this termination. They also have units in the area to block off traffic so more people don't get involved. Driver door open, hands still up. And we'll see what happens as this ends. They're going to ask that suspect to step out of the vehicle very slowly, hands up, facing away from those officers, down on the knees. And now the group's approaching the suspect, getting closer, which isn't adding any benefit to this termination. If anything, it's making it more stressful for those officers in this situation. But now suspect prone out on the ground. And what they'll do is more than likely have a group approach, a arrest team approach that suspect and take him into custody. Hands behind the back. And they're also going to clear the vehicle and make sure there's nothing else dangerous inside that vehicle or anyone else hiding in there. We can see a large crowd, probably about 20 to 30 people here, getting very, very close to the situation in the line of fire. If for some reason shots were fired, they would be in danger. Wall and 46th Street. Now, because of this large crowd, the LAPD is actually having to divert more resources to this termination to address the large crowd that is somewhat unruly according to what the scanner is saying. You can see that approach team approaching the vehicle, making sure it's clear from any danger, and now we are seeing an arrest team approach to take that suspect into custody, with officers covering the officers taking the suspect into custody due to the large crowd that has gathered. Not only do they have to protect themselves from a possible dangerous suspect, but they also have to protect themselves from any unknown situation that could happen due to the large crowd. LAPD taking that driver into custody now. That vehicle is cleared. They're going to clear that trunk now to make sure there's nothing in that trunk that could be of danger. See the officer going into that driver's seat to open that trunk of this Chevy Cruze. Was involved in a pursuit of an assault with a deadly weapon suspect. The air unit leaving now as the pursuit's over. And that trunk is cleared. Code 4, suspect in custody. This is a successful end to a pursuit of assault with a deadly weapon suspect here in Los Angeles by the 77th Division of LAPD. Now what they have to worry about is that crowd that has gathered. It looks like LAPD is pushing them back off of the street onto the sidewalk where they can be safer, as they are in the flow of traffic right now.